Hi, I'm Roger Peterson. Welcome back to Pro 423. In our last video, we started looking at what happens when little boys and little girls and young men and women don't get to process injuries, when they come into a trial and a conflict and it emotionally damages them and they don't get a chance to talk it out with someone they trust. Well, in the last video, we saw that they decide they want to quit hurting. They decide they don't want to feel that way again. That's just the normal ways little boys and girls and young men and women think. Why would anybody want to choose pain? So that's the first decision they make. I don't want to feel this way again. And then, now listen close, they unintentionally learn to be dysfunctional. Well, that means this. This is how I learned what unintentional learning is. I was at my favorite restaurant up in Enumclaw. I was having lunch and some coffee, and I was doing some work. And my favorite waitress, Deb, knows that I like my coffee nice and hot, and so every once in a while she'd come over without me having to say anything, and she'd fill up my cup as she's going around, with a mug. And one time, as I'm down at my computer doing some work, I didn't see her come by. I did not see her fill up my cup. And here's what happened. It looked like this. I burnt my lip. Now, why did I burn my lip? What happened? I thought about it. I like to figure things out, obviously. And so I thought about it, and I realized what happened. What happened was this, is every time I take a sip of coffee, my brain would unintentionally or unconsciously log where the coffee was when I set it down. So that when I brought it back up to my lip, I could quickly go to where it was and then sip carefully so I don't burn myself. And then one time, Deb comes by, fills up my cup of coffee. I didn't see it. My brain didn't notice it. And so when I went back up, I was automatically going back to the other depth, but it was full and it burnt my lip. I unintentionally learned. I didn't decide to learn, I just learned. One of the greatest examples that we can look at for all of us to learn what this looks like is to look at the idea of you drying off after a shower. Everybody that I've talked to has a pattern. You may not know you have a pattern, but if you stop and think about it, you realize you have a specific place you start, and then you go a certain direction, and eventually you get all dried off. But there's a very specific pattern everybody does it with. Try it, you'll find out. Do you know how those patterns developed? Did you take 4 hours one day and figure out the best pattern and then learn it over the next several days and weeks? No. You didn't take a single ounce of time. You just found yourself finding out which was best. You just fell into your pattern. And that's what little boys and little girls do and young men and women do when they go into their bedroom and they are racked full of pain and they don't want to feel it again. They unintentionally decide to develop an anger problem because they know subconsciously that anger will push people away. Or they decide to avoid emotional risks. So they just withdraw from people and from emotional involvement because they don't want to feel it that way again. I mean, no one intentionally decides to become dysfunctional, but everyone has that tendency to unintentionally decide to protect yourself from future pain. I mean, it makes sense. I remember a video one time from the, I think the Oxford Boxing Club. And they were preparing for a battle against their rivals, and they were talking to this one boxer and this young kid, and he's punching the bag, and he's talking about how he just loves to he loves to hit things and make them hurt and make them and punish them and just be aggressive, and I love to hit things. And then a couple minutes later in the interview, he's talking about his dad. I hate my dad. I can't stand my dad. That little boy struggled with his dad. And he went home to a house that didn't care about him, and he went to bed not having processed emotions. And he unintentionally decided to become angry to deal with his pain. We all do it. It's how dysfunctions develop out of unprocessed emotions.